Terraform is one of the infrastructure as code IAC tools. Basically, it helps in provisioning the infrastructure. Okay, so Terraform, let's understand, it is developed by HashiCorp, as I said, right? Hashi Corporation, they have their own language also. It's an industry standard IAC tool. Industry standard IAC tool used to build, modify and manage infrastructure safely and efficiently. Okay, among all the tools, this is the most popular tool what is available, right? So, what all things it does? It automates infrastructure provisioning instead of manual console configuration. We can automate the process of infrastructure creation. It enables version control, collaboration and repeatable deployments. Okay. It reduces human errors while improving scalability and consistency. Basically, all that benefits what IAC has, Terraform also has the same, because it is one of the most popular IAC tool, right? See, this is developed by this company. So, there are some key features for the Terraform. To understand much or better about Terraform, we need to study all these concepts. Key features: cloud agnostic means it supports cloud platforms, right? Terraform works with any cloud provider. Terraform works with any cloud provider. That is its first important feature, because we know everybody is looking towards cloud. We are working towards moving towards cloud. We want to deploy our application in cloud. We want to write our application code in the cloud. Everything, when we are looking for cloud, I think definitely Terraform can play a major role, because it supports integration with all these tools. And even in cloud, generally we don't need to install or create any infrastructure. IaaS is already there. But if you are still looking for something else, creating some infrastructure and doing some kind of settings, that can be done using Terraform even in cloud. The second important feature is immutable infrastructure. Immutable infrastructure. What is this? So, we already seen that, right? Terraform typically replaces servers rather than changing them by reducing configuration drift. Means when servers become inconsistent over time, we don't take risk. We try to throw it away and get one new server. Not throwing, but again creating a new server, basically, right? That is also an important feature of Terraform, immutable infrastructure. Then state management. Since it is a declarative tool, obviously it has to store the state information. It's a declarative tool, so we need to store the state. So, Terraform keeps track of your real world resources in a state file, acting as the source of truth, right? So, the current, what does that mean? What is the state management? See, your current status or current installations or current configuration settings of your own machine are known by the Terraform. They keep track of that. They have that information with them, right? That is one of the features of Terraform. They keep information, they keep track of your resources. What are the existing resources, that they know it. Then we have modular, right? So, you can package code into modules to reuse common patterns. Okay, it means in Terraform, when I am writing the code, when I am writing that script, okay, that can be written as modules, so that when somebody wants to create web server, they can use that module and create the web server. If somebody wants to delete that, there might be one common script. They want to set up some other cloud environment, there should be one common script. So, we should have so many such scripts created in form of modules, right? So, that is about the key important features of Terraform, right? So, how does this Terraform works? What is the working procedure of this Terraform? Okay, so Terraform config, this is the file TF. I think we can relate this with the Docker file, Jenkins file. Same way we have Terraform config file. We call it as, you see, .tf file, Terraform config file, and then we have Terraform state file. What is the state file? We are maintaining the current state of the machine. Okay, then from there it talks to the providers. It talks to the cloud providers, maybe GCP, Heroku, OpenStack, right? AWS, Azure, like that. It can talk to many of those platforms. Okay, so Terraform uses a declarative configuration language to define infrastructure and manage resources in predictable automated workflow. It allows team to provision, update, delete infrastructure, right? So it has lot of such benefits which we have already seen that. Okay, so this is about the Terraform basic idea or understanding of Terraform, right? Next, the Terraform architecture. What are the different components of Terraform architecture? So there is one registry. We will understand each one of them. There is one registry. See, infrastructure as code, the script what is there here, which I am writing it, right? Then there is Terraform cloud. Terraform cloud is there, and in cloud I am storing the state file and the configuration file. In Terraform cloud we are storing the state file. State information means the current information of that particular machine, and the config file, right? Then we talk to providers. From Terraform cloud we talk to the providers. Okay, AWS, Azure, VMware, Salesforce, Alibaba, all these are different providers, right? So this is the basic architecture of Terraform. Let's understand the details of that, right? So the first one is the core engine. This is a binary you run on your laptop. It reads your configuration files and compares them to your current state of your infrastructure to calculate what needs to be done. The core engine. What it does actually, see, once I give a script, once I give an ISA script, it will try to read my machine first. Also, it will read the configuration file and check whether these things are installed already or not. If they are not installed, then it will do it, otherwise it will not do it, right? And the second one is providers. See, we are having providers here. Okay, so what is this providers? Terraform does not know how to talk to AWS or Azure directly, but it uses provider plugins that translate Terraform code into API calls for specific platforms. So these providers help us in interacting. The other people want to interact the cloud, they cannot do it, right? So this Terraform provides some plugins that will translate the Terraform code into API calls. And finally, the state file. This is the state file, right? We have seen this. I think we have seen here config file and state file. Terraform state file .tste.tf, right? So this is the brain of Terraform because it is storing the state information. If I know the state information, I need not install something again. I need not worry about that, right? It maps your code to the real world resources. This is the most important component among the other components in Terraform, right? Because state information, if I know the state information only, based on the state information, I will think whether to install a software or not to install, or whether to do a setting or not to do a setting, right? If you delete a resource from your code, Terraform looks at that state file to find the ID of real resource and delete it from the cloud. Suppose you are deleting something in the local machine, it should be deleted in the cloud itself, right? Because when I am not having in local, it should not be available in the cloud, right? So that is Terraform takes care of that. Okay, Terraform looks at the state file to find the ID of the real resource, the real service they look for, and delete it from the cloud. For example, one important note is that not everything we can delete, or not everything we can start it from scratch. So in Teams, the file is stored remotely in S3 bucket maybe. So everyone works off the same map. Okay, so these are some main important components of Terraform architecture, right? So this is how it works. There is a registry. Okay, in this registry we will be storing the scripts. Why we need this registry? To store the scripts, and this is the user. Once we execute that script using Terraform, it will focus on the state and config file. It will also look for the user. Okay, so these two things will be there in the Terraform cloud, and there are providers using which we talk, right? So the core engine, the providers, and the state file. So this is about the Terraform introduction and Terraform architecture and how Terraform works.